The Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour on ESPN is being brought to you by Seagram's Coolers. Pure Seagrams, pure fun. By Delta Faucet. Express yourself. Get a grip on a Delta faucet. And by Thompson's Water Seal Exterior Stain. Beauty that lasts at last. And now let's meet tonight's top five, making her fourth consecutive appearance in the championship round. It's 10-time titleist Nikki Gianulias. Her opponent in the opening game will be 24-year-old Michelle Mullen of nearby Matteson, Illinois. Starting from the middle of the field is 8-time champion Jeanne Maiden of Solon, Ohio. And holding down the number 2 position is the current national amateur champion Patty Ann of Bloomington, Illinois. While 31-year-old Robin Romeo will need to win just one game in order to collect $40,000 and her fourth title of 1989. And welcome, everyone, to palatial Stardust Bowl in Addison, Illinois for the championship round finals of the $200,000 Seagram's Coolers U.S. Open. Hi, everyone. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to Addison, Illinois. And the key phrase this week, survival of the fittest. That's right, low scores here this week. As a matter of fact, only 3 players out of a field of 240 that started this event ended up averaging plus 200 here at Stardust Bowl this week. Working with me once again is Leila Wagner. And Leila, the scores were down, but it was a very competitive condition for the U.S. Open.
Well, it really was, Denny. And I feel that the reason for the low scores was the fact that we crossed so many pairs in qualifying, and there was a big variety of lane conditions as you crossed those pairs, and it was the key for the players. If they were able to make those adjustments quickly, find the right ball, find the right line, and stay out of trouble, they were the players that were able to stay out of trouble.
A diversified field this week in our top 5, and of course one player, one of 8 amateurs to make the top 24, is Patty Ann.
Well, Patty Ann isn't your normal amateur player. She's been out on the tour for 5 years. She won a title as a professional, and in 1986, she was an amateur player in the U.S. Open and finished 4th. So she's had a lot of tournament experience.
It's early on in 1989, but if Robin Romeo wins here this evening, she'll surpass $70,000. She'll win the biggest event of the year, and I think pretty much put the wraps on Bowler of the Year. You don't believe that?
Well, no, I don't. I think as far as somebody topping her money winnings, that would be tough to do. However, a player could come in and dominate the last 16 events and actually steal those Bowler of the Year titles from Robin. However, I really like her chances.
$200,000 all told, $40,000 for first. But before we get to the title game, it's match number 1 between Nikki Gianulias and Michelle Mullen. Stay tuned. And welcome back, everyone, to Stardust Lanes in Addison, Illinois, located about 15 minutes from O'Hare Airport. And Nikki Gianulias' 4th consecutive appearance in the championship round.
An amazing way is how she got there again, Denny. It went to the final game. For the 3rd consecutive week, she made it.
Had to beat Lisa Wagner in the process. Opening shot, oh my, and a split to start game number 1.
Denny, they're going to find, actually, I think the scores once again are going to remain a little bit low here on the television pair. The lanes looked quite a bit tighter for the players in the practice session while they were practicing. So they feel like they almost have to point the ball towards the pocket. And if they overpoint it, they're going to end up with some splits.
And we'll develop that story as these matches go on. Only 3 players averaging 200 for the week. And as they crossed the house here in 3 different sections, you had to take a parcel of bowling equipment with you because many players were using a different ball on every pair.
It was really different, Denny, something that I've never really seen in the past. But I tell you what, if you could, like we talked about in the opening, if you could make those adjustments in, decide what ball to use quickly, and stayed out of trouble, those were the players that made it into the top 24.
So the opening shot on the right-hand lane through the nose for Michelle Mullen.
Good look at Michelle Mullen's game. This is only her 2nd appearance on television. She has a 5-step approach, very good footwork. Nice cupped wrist position. And as she follows through, you're going to see good knee bend. She gets a lot of turn on the ball.
Opens up, converting to 3-6, and she has a lot of fans here because Matteson's only about 50 miles from this bowling center.
Oh, that's right. She has her mother and a few other family members and a lot of friends that came down to watch her participate.
Former collegiate player and an outstanding player in her own right at the University of Illinois.
She was the 3-time collegiate All-American.
Trying right now to get on track, a light hit in the 2-4-5 stands. And boy, adjustment's going to be the key to winning matches here in the championship round as well.
It really is. Both Michelle's game and Nikki's game are very similar. They like to cross boards, as we say. They like to swing the ball a little bit out to the right and have it come flying back with a lot of power.
As she lets the ball go, but I know you played here this week, Leila, and spares were at a premium this week. The game came back to the players. Spares
were tough, Denny. I saw a lot of spares missed. One time one way and then the next time on the other way, but she sure didn't miss this one, as she just covered this perfectly.
Solid strike on lane 26.
Nikki really amazed me, Denny. I qualified next to Nikki, and as you'll find, she really got lost in the first few rounds. You're going to get a look at Nikki's game. She actually pushes the ball away first. She has a 4-step delivery. Again, look at the cupped wrist position. Very, very low to the line. A lot of power in her release. When I was qualifying next to her, and she just had such a tough time. She was either high to the pocket or real light to the pocket, and she barely made the top 56 cut. She only made that by 13 pins, and then from there she shot a 258 game to make it into the top 24.
Yeah, she qualified 22nd, so she's been right on the razor's edge all week long, looking to double up here and gain a little advantage in the match. Through the nose again, and she gets the big break. And she'll remember that shot.
Big break that was. That ball crossing over to the Brooklyn side here, as we'll get a good look at it. Now, she went high on lane 25 on her previous shot. Here, that ball was crossing over, and that was a big break for the double.
Looks like Michelle lost that one in the downswing and nearly paid dearly for it, but breaks up the split.
Most all the players this week were relatively playing around the second to the third arrow, Denny. Some pairs you moved into around 17. Other pairs we were playing around 10. So I think we'll see a little bit of a variety here this evening with the players' balls. Take a look and see if we can see her drop it. She really didn't get the extension on it.
Very steady indeed, and last week, what a heartbreaker for Michelle Mullen. She was 4th heading into the position round game and dropped from 4th to 6th, and she told me, winked at me before the show and said, I made sure this week I had enough pins, so no matter what I did, I was going to make the telecast.
You know, it really was a heartbreaker. Michelle bowled so well all week last week, and for her to drop out in the last game, both Nikki Gianulias and Leanne Barrett went around her, and she shed a few tears, but she came back real strong this week.
And looking for her first strike, and she gets it in the 4th. So Mullen with an X, and Nikki G working on the double. We'll be back with more right after this timeout. Pretty good first shot, left the 4, and then nicked it out. So she stops at a double and still leads by 3 pins.
Okay, take a look at her first shot here. She's going to leave a 4-pin. The ball finishing a little too strong, a little high. Head pin going against the wall. Knocks the 7. And the rear end tried to get the 4, but didn't quite make it.
Not only has it been a stressful week, but diagnosed earlier today with an inner ear infection and strep throat is Nikki Gianulias. So she's battling right now just to keep her balance.
Well, that definitely can affect your balance and your timing, Danny. It's amazing. She was feeling very ill even yesterday, and to do as well as she did. We've been out here 6 weeks now in a row, and the constant competing, the pressures, there was no time in between the last tournament into this tournament, no rest, no break period, and if you're constantly bowling good, you're keeping your body just going to a point where you have no time to rest.
Of course, Nikki making the telecast last week and then having to drive from Washington to Chicago in the motorhome, and you get here just in time to put the bowling shoes back on and practice, and you're right, it's a very draining segment, and of course still 3 weeks yet to go for the ladies.
That's correct. We're heading up to Bismarck, North Dakota for the WIBC and the National Queens Tournament next week.
Just a 1-pin lead right now, and Michelle Mullen could erase that with a double in the 5th.
A little flat hit there, Danny. The ball not quite driving hard enough. Her ball almost seems as if it's bouncing in the front part of the lane. But you can see right where she's playing, about the 3rd arrow on that shot, and the ball starts to make a break back, but just not driving hard enough. The 6-pin just sits in the channel.
Of course, this week, perhaps, the strategy, especially in match play. All right. Hey, 9 was a pretty good score this week. 9 spare. A game of 190 would have won a lot of matches.
It sure was, and the match play was a big, important part this week. Robin Romeo was basically able to stay out of trouble, and she only won 6.5 matches going into her last round. So these were typical scores that you did see this week. A little donut there in the first frame, maybe catch a double, and a lot of spare shooting.
Shaker strike on lane 25, and if there is one thing I like about Michelle Mullen's game, there's not a lot of head belly involved. She's pretty much going direct and trying to hit the pocket.
She is going more direct here, Danny, and that's what she's capable of doing. She is capable of changing her game. I've been able to see her in a tournament, Canoga Park. She was really swinging the ball out, so she's able to do just about any type of condition, and I think that's what's going to make her one of the better players.
Well, that one's wide of the mark, and oh my goodness.
That's the out-of-bounds area, Denny, that we hit. Outside that 2nd arrow, there was a lot of lane conditioner, and if you sent it just right at the 2nd arrow, not heading towards the pocket, you were lucky to get maybe 6 pins. But this here is not going to be an easy spare conversion.
The 1, 7, 8, 9. Thank goodness the 10-pin left.
Well, the 5-pin is not present in this, and that's normally what takes out that 8-pin. So the ball can really only take the 1, the 9, and exactly how I called it.
That's what happened. Well, a good effort nonetheless, but a second open for Nikki Gianulias, and now Michelle Mullen leads by 14 pins.
Here you can see the ball's going to take the 1, 9. The head pin's going to go right into the 7, and there was no 5 there to take out that 8.
And the bucket. Boy, every time he got aggressive and got the ball a little bit right this week, you know, and this is set up like a U.S. Open golf tournament. The rough is a foot high. The greens are as hard as they are at Augusta in the springtime, and Attila the Hun must have set the pin placements this week.
Well, you know, for a tournament of this many players, and with all the top name players here as well as the amateur players, it's good to have a difficult condition where you do have to make some changes and you really have to think. And that's what we came down to this week. You had to think quick.
Crosses over and sacrifices and carries the bucket. So Michelle Mullen now by 14. And after a through-the-nose shot, cross-lane conversion of the 3-pin.
Well, actually, Michelle has gotten pretty lucky here on her last 2 attempts on lane 26. Here she was going to break up another split, as she did previously on this lane, and leaves herself with only the 3-pin to shoot at. Well,
2, 4, 5. Now, what about the oil carry down? It's long oil processed this week for the U.S. Open. Now it's carrying down, and all the players told me that this pair is much tighter than it was, say, last night during match play.
Well, that's true, Denny, and they do start over with the lane conditioning procedure, so it should be similar to what they were in the morning blocks. Some of the mornings were a little different than others, and that was also a difficult thing to adjust to. And, that was not an easy spare to convert.
For the first 3 rounds of the tournament, Leila, weren't the lanes much more tighter than they were in match play?
Yes. Once the 3 days of qualifying were very similar. The lanes were all very tight in the morning, and then they broke down throughout all the plays. And then going into the semifinals, the lanes opened up a little bit more. There was a little more back end. And then into the finals, that they pretty much stayed the same.
Well, you know, it's a tough tournament when players are running out the spare conversions.
Nikki G trying to get something started, and there you see the shot that's happened so many times, the half hit. You throw it great, and it just doesn't react.
Well, that's true, and that's here with long oil and the oil carrying down. The back ends just aren't finishing hard enough. The ball's not driving hard enough into the pocket, and the six pin's just sitting there in the channel.
All right, let me pose a question for you now. They've practiced for a half an hour. Now they're bowling. What can the players do to adjust? Do you go to the ball that hooks the absolute most and move way to the right, or what do you do in this situation?
Well, Denny, you can really look at it two ways here. They're hitting the pocket, and they're getting 9, and they're sparing. And as long as your opponent's not starting to string strikes on you, you do need to be more aggressive out here in the championship round, and they are bowling for a lot of money. If you go to a softer ball and get it to finish a little harder, they may have problems with it hooking too early on them and then driving into the pocket too soon, leaving themselves with splits. So right now they stay with the same ball, maybe make a minor adjustment to the right, try to get a little bit more of an angle to the pocket. They might get the 10 out.
Better shot there, and a nice reaction. So she needed a strike in the 9th, and she still has a possible 200 game.
Good look at Nikki's four-step approach again from behind. She really gets a lot of fingers and lift on that ball. Something else, a characteristic, Denny, the farther in, seemed you got a little bit better of a reaction.
Well, that one's going to be high into the pocket and crashes through the nose and leaves the 6-10. And she's a very fortunate player. She's thrown the ball high on the right-hand lane 3 consecutive times.
And light on the left-hand lane twice. So she's making the adjustments on lane 25 for lane 26.
Possibility of a tie here as well. If she spares and strikes out, she would shoot 1-7, or make that 200 rather.
Oh, boy. Takes the 6 off the 10, and that really swings the door wide open for Nikki Gianulias.
It sure does. When Michelle looks like she has the match pretty much under control, the 6-10 chops, and this was a prime example of how difficult the spares were. She was expecting that ball to slide more, and then all of a sudden, here's the finish in the back end, and she chops the 6-10. A great shot there in the 10th frame.
Well, that was a clutch shot. You're right. Now, if she throws 2 more, she shoots 189, which would force Nikki Gianulias to strike.
Michelle's best finish this year, 6th earlier at Canoga Park. Obviously the only player on the telecast without a professional title.
She's been working with a lot with Donna Adamek recently, helping her in her physical and mental game. An important strike here. Oh, almost carried the light shot.
Pretty good shot there, too, and she spares. It'll be 179, and there's a distinct possibility that Nikki G will advance if she can at least count 20 in the 10th frame. Easier said than done on this condition, though, right? 20, a lot of people would love to have had 20. So Michelle Mullen finishes with 179, and one mistake. That came when she chopped the 6 off the 10 in the 9th.
A spare strike, and Nikki wins this match by 1 pin.
And Nikki now conferring with Fran Wolf, the national tournament director, concerning, I think, a re-rack. Fran is going to give her one, so.
This is what Nikki gets to see right here.
Well, we've mentioned this is her 4th consecutive appearance in the championship round. You know, she holds the all-time record. She made 9 consecutive television shows back in 81 and 82. That's phenomenal.
Well, in 1982, she was also the Bowling Writers Association Bowler of the Year. So she had some great tournaments back then.
Easy choice, right?
Yes.
Maybe want to congratulate Bruce Pluckon as well. He's the new president of the BWAA, Bowling Writers Association of America. Also the curator of the National Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum in St. Louis.
pointing that ball up. She wanted to make sure she got it to the pocket. Through the nose.
Well, I think your fear there is you're right. If you don't get it to the pocket, a washout's a possibility. You got to take your chances with 8 or 9. And, of course, Michelle chopped the 6 off. Nikki will have to guard against that.
We also have a possibility of tie, Denny. If Nikki spares and gets 9, we have a tie. Can you believe it? She looked like she skidded that ball right to it.
10-pin wiggled, but it didn't happen. So both players make mistakes in the late stages, and Michelle Mullen, Christmas comes early. Nikki Gianulias, who won here in 1982, cannot convert the 6-10. She finishes 5th. And next up, it'll be Jeanne Maiden and Michelle Mullen at the U.S. Nikki Gianulias dearly. She finishes the week in 5th place, and this was the key shot, Leila.
And you know, Denny, this fooled both you and I think. She just threw this ball as hard as she could, and it went into a slide, but then it just, I mean, it missed that 10 by 1/4 of an inch. Another view of it. Boy, couldn't slice that off any more perfect.
She needed a spare there and strike to win the match, and you're seeing the final practice shots from Jeanne Maiden out of Solon, Ohio, with 8 championships thus far. Qualifying 3rd this week, and she had a very solid week indeed, as she also averaged 225 on the television pair. We might point out that the finalists averaged just a fraction better than 210 on lanes 25 and 26. And, well, I know you're smiling, Leila, when you look at this. Some heavy-duty money on top.
Oh, you bet. First place, $40,000, with $20,000 going to the runner-up. 3rd place, a nice check for $10,000. 4th, $7,500, and as we saw, Nikki Gianulias just part with $6,000. So some great money this week, paid all the way down to 60 places.
Well, this has become such a great event, sponsored by Seagram's Coolers and, of course, the Bowling Proprietors Association of America, $200,000 on top. And, of course, they have the big men's U.S. Open, $500,000 there, $100,000 on top to the winner. And it's just nice to get those kind of sponsors involved with the game of bowling.
It sure is. I'd like to get some more corporations involved in.
And we start match number 2. Michelle Mullen starts on lane 25. Got to have a little looser arm swing after the break that she just got, and she throws a nice shot in the first.
Too bad. And it looks like lane 25 has actually favored Michelle. Lane 26 took him a little early for her. Now, Jeanne Maiden coming up from the 7th place position. She made a nice move.
Well, she hit that one about as hard as she could, and she got the 5-pin to dance a little bit.
Jeanne's best finish here in 1989 has been 2nd in both the Ebonite Fireboat Classic and also the Lady Ebonite Classic. Nice look at her game. She has a 4-step approach, a very deliberate first step, very high backswing. Good follow through, great extension, also good knee bend.
Trying to double up and jump out early, and boy, she got a nice break on the left-hand lane.
She sure did. 4 or 5 on the deck, we might say, on that one. As you can see here, the ball's not going to finish. As it's real light, the head pin goes against the wall, comes back. 2-pin topples, and they all fall down.
Some gang tackling there on lane 25, but any double is a good double, as they say here this week, huh?
That's right.
Right back at him. Ball skids through, and the 2-4-5 is left. And it looks like Michelle made a little adjustment with the feet because she didn't go high in the right-hand lane.
Yes, she did, and it was a good adjustment for her. We saw her go through the nose on the last 3 times on lane 26. So that time she made the adjustment and went light. Michelle's average on the TV pair, 208, which was a nice average.
Oh boy, 2-4-5, 2 and the 4 leave, and the 5 stays as she kind of shakes her head on the way back. I guess the 5 players that made it this week, too, Leila, were able to fight the adversity of missing some spares throughout the week.
I think so, Denny. I think when they changed from pair to pair, they stayed out of trouble in those first 3-4 frames while they were able to get lined up. And I think they missed a share of their spares, too.
Good shot on the left-hand lane, leaves the solid 10 pin.
A real nice hit on lane 25 as the 6-pin just wraps around the 10.
In case you've just joined us, Nikki Gianulias losing in the opening game to Michelle, 179-168. Next in line would be Patty Ann, the current national amateur champ, and on top this week, Robin Romeo of Van Nuys, California.
Michelle switching balls for her spare, going to a harder, shinier surface.
I know one thing. I knew the players were in trouble this week, Leila, when I saw 2 or 3 players start throwing strike balls with their spare balls and spare balls with their strike balls. It got that confusing at times. It was a rough week out there.
Good look at Jeannie. Had a nice year in 1988, runner-up to Lisa Wagner.
Well, she pulled that a touch through the nose and breaks up the split and leaves the 3-pin.
Pulled it and really had no ball speed on that shot, Denny. Very, very slow. And she broke up what could have been a little disaster for her. As she came back and took out her tape and put another piece in, not quite the feel that she wanted. Jeannie's made a few changes again in her game. She's gone back to a 4-step approach. She was at a 5 for a while.
Very versatile performer. She spares up, and as you looked at this field this week, it's an interesting tournament for the professionals because there were 103 amateurs among the 240 field, and how does that change the early qualifying when you have to bowl with amateur players as opposed to professionals?
Well, a lot of the amateur players that do compete in the U.S. Open, Denny, have won local qualifiers, so they are used to bowling in some type of a tournament. However, we do have our own format, and they have to get used to the rules, and sometimes the crossings can be a little tough for them at first.
Oh, boy. Looked like a pretty good shot at about 45 feet, but it ends up a disaster, the 4-7, 9-10, but you can make this.
Yes, you can make it with a little luck. Here it looks like she gets slow again, not giving the ball the room on the right, room to the right. However, she went light last time on this lane, so this time she makes the adjustment and the ball hooks right through the nose. Trying to slide that 4-pin over. Oh, Denny. Oh.
Well, the 4 went right in front of the 10. Magnificent shot under the pressure of the U.S. Open, and she doesn't get the break, so we'll be back with more right after this. A spare of the 5-pin in the 4th for Michelle Mullen, and she was fortunate after the opening shot.
Yes, she was. She almost left herself again with the bucket, which she did not convert last time, and the head pin came off the wall, decided to trip out the 2 and the 4.
Shot there, and she looked like she set that ball a little shorter, Leila. Is that something you can do when the lanes tighten up to get into a roll earlier?
Yes, Denny, and I thought the players that were scoring or were able to score were the ones that were actually setting the ball shorter.
Well, of course, Patty Ann does that, probably as good as anybody in the country, right?
You bet. She sets it very, very short. Comeback after an open frame by Jeannie.
Well, it appears that 26 is the better of the 2 lanes for Jeanne Maiden, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and Michelle Mullen likes 25, yeah. So each player has their favorite lane. And both players are finishing on the lane they don't like.
Always happens that way, right?
Seems to. Jeannie has a nice average on the television pair, 225. A
little better speed this time on the left-hand lane, and she liked that shot when it left her hand.
I think she did too, and the ball just didn't finish as we saw Nikki leave before the flat 10 as the 6-pin just sits in the channel.
It's been a tough year for Jeannie too, because she led a couple of tournaments and got beat both times from the top seed position.
Well, this has given her a chance to come all the way up the ladder here.
You could see she wanted that double desperately.
Jeannie's best finish in a U.S. Open is 7th, and that was in her hometown of Cleveland.
And she had an excellent opportunity to make the telecast 2 years ago.
Yes, she said she bowled herself right out of it. So she recognizes the fact that maybe the pressure from her hometown got to her. Still looking for that first strike on lane 26.
Going to be Brooklyn if it's anything. Kicks out the 10-pin. She leaves the 3. And, all right, the viewers at home are saying, well, geez, Denny and Leila, why doesn't she just move to the right with her feet and go a little more direct?
Well, Denny, if she moves to the right here, she has that chance of catching that out-of-bounds area. And like we mentioned, some of the players were playing deep inside. However, here now she's gone inside. She swung a little bit more. She didn't get it back. She left herself with a couple of buckets. She tried to go a little bit more direct inside, and the ball's hooking early on her. She does need to make some other type of adjustment on lane 26. If it is getting it out into that oil, she might have to do it, because she's not going to beat players like Jeanne Maiden or Patty Ann or Robin Romeo without hitting lane 26.
Superb shot on the left-hand lane, so she has to strike up in the 7th, but she trails by 7 pins. More of game number 2 in the U.S. Pretty good shot, but ended up leaving the 4 and the 7, so a spare up in the 7th for Jeanne Maiden, who now leads by just 5 sticks.
Really a good shot by Jeannie. The ball just didn't finish once again on lane 26. If you send it a little bit too much to the right, it just doesn't make it back with enough power.
Of course, and what happens to your arm swing when you're used to arcing the ball throughout most of the year, and then you come to a tournament where if you throw it right, it's out the window, it's out of bounds. It changes your whole swing plane, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and also as we cross the pair, sometimes your swing went to the right, and others you had to point it to the left. So you were changing your swing as well as balls and everything else.
Good shot there in the 8th. So she strikes in the 8th to kind of keep pace right now. Now the pressure back on the shoulders of Michelle Mullen, who has yet to throw a double in this one.
A key shot for Michelle in the 8th frame here against Jeanne Maiden, looking for the double and her first strike on lane 26.
Might be.
Great shot. She actually stayed in on this shot, Denny. Now she stayed in. She went a little, just enough to the right. And the ball comes breaking back real hard, and the 6-pin slaps that 10, and this is her reaction. A very important double.
And that almost looks like the old lacquer track shot, you know, when the ball maybe only crossed 3 or 4 or 5 boards.
A little fade back and then a nice little finish. You're right.
Roy Buckley'd be loving that shot, right? A fall back special on the left-hand lane. She coaxes the 10, but it won't listen.
A good shot on lane 25. Just not quite enough drive there where the 6-pin sits in front of the 10.
Possible 206 with a spare here and a strikeout in the 10th.
She takes the lead by 4 pins.
Jeanne Maiden working on a strike, though, so for her in the 9th, that'll be the key shot. Michelle Mullen has performed very well here in front of the hometown fans. That's the extra pressure of bowling in the old neighborhood.
She sure has, and her best 89 finish is 6th in Canoga Park, which is her best career finish as well.
Jeanne
hitting that little dark spot, as we might say, the hook spot on the lane, and that ball went left. That was a very important strike there for Jeanne. would have given her the lead in the match. Also the foundation strike.
Key now, make the spare and head over to the 10th frame. So the best possible score of 202 if she would strike out. And still would leave the possibility for Michelle Mullen to throw 2 and count to win. So this one's going right down to the 10th frame. Just a very professional execution there.
You're right. A lot of ball speed. Didn't cross too many boards. Just almost like a little frozen rope there if you can have one.
Well, if that does anything else, it at least forces Michelle to mark, even if Jeanne doesn't double.
That's right, and on lane 26. Hasn't been Michelle's favorite lane.
That one's going to have to hurry a little bit. Doesn't quite get the break that she needs. So with a spare, it'll be 192, and Michelle Mullen will need a mark and count to move on to the semifinal game.
Just a little bit more aggressive on that shot. Jeanne gave it a little bit more room, and it just didn't get back.
Well, you know what they say, trust is a must, and I think she gave it a little more room because she knew that she was juiced up a little bit.
A very disciplined player. Jeanne practices hours and hours and hours.
All right, so 192 with an open in the 4th frame. And, boy, she nearly converted to 4-7, 9-10. But now, for Michelle Mullen, there you see graphically a spare and 8, and she'll advance.
And if you recall, Denny, Nikki needed a spare as well.
Any time with the shot, blew the 5 out. The 7 wiggles and dances, but stands.
A really good shot for lane 26, as we've seen her go through the beak so many times. She gave that the room. It did come back, finish. The 5 went. And she's going to look to convert the 7-pin. You'll see here the 5-pin, the ball just nicking the 5.
In and 8 pins, and she advances. Do you change your strategy now for this shot, Leila, or just keep throwing the strike shot?
No, not when you need 8 pins, Denny. She'll be going for that strike.
7, and we would have a tie.
Enough, Denny. She got that ball to hold right down the middle of the lane, right down the line. She was going for the strike.
Very deliberate indeed. So she wins 194-192 while Jeanne Maiden packs her bags. Patty Ann and welcome back, everyone. There are the other finishers. Lisa Wagner, our defending champion, just missing finishing up in the number 6 slot. Leanne Barrett made a rush and finished 7th.
And also Renee Fleming, who was right up there the whole time.
As we look down through the rest of the top 25, Vicki Fischel, a champion on the tour as well. Anne-Marie Pike, 21st. And Carol Norman, also a former U.S. Open champ, at 23rd. Well, she started last game with a strike, threw a good shot there, and she'll open up with a solid 10-pin.
Michelle having to feel a little bit more relaxed now, a little more aggressive shot there on lane 25. Again, switching balls to shoot her 10-pin.
Becoming more confident with every game that she wins. She realizes now if she gets by Patty Ann, she'll bowl for her first ever title. And, of course, the biggest on the ladies' tour.
And also more money than she's won in her total 3-year career.
Patty Ann, the current national amateur champion, a member of Team USA.
Lays it down behind the line and comes out striking.
Patty Ann likes to play very direct. She does hit the ball very short. She's playing right around the second arrow, a little farther right than the other players. She's almost pointing the ball right to the pocket and getting it just to finish enough in the back end. This is her 5th career television appearance. So as we mentioned in the opening, she's not your normal amateur player.
Doesn't waste any time, sets it short, and will the 4-pin go? No, it won't. A couple of good opening shots. The interesting note concerning Patty Ann, as Leila mentioned, she bowled 5 years on the national tour as a pro, and then you have to lay off the tour for 2 years before you can regain your amateur status. And I asked her why she did that. She had some problems with her knee, and she said, I just decided it was time to take a little break, as she hops and skips and picks up the 4. And then she also said, you know, with Team USA and bowling in the Olympics and a chance to compete nationally and internationally, I thought it might be a great idea to become an amateur and try and make the team.
Well, that's true. There's so many great events now for amateur players around the world and collegiate bowlers, and the Bowling Proprietors Association of America has been endorsing them all. So it's good to stay an amateur for as long as you can.
The interesting note, too, I said, well, what about down the road? What are the possibilities? And she said, you know, I really loved competing against the best players in the world on the ladies' tour. And who knows, maybe I'll end up back out there before it's all over.
Well, she did have some severe knee problems. We all thought she might come back as a left-hander there for a while. She is very disciplined, bowls many hours a day. She also is a coach.
Conversion for Michelle Mullen of the 6'10". She's really an interesting story, Patty Ann. We'll develop that as we move on here in the semifinal game. But the sidebar story right now belongs to the local, Michelle Mullen, who has already defeated Nikki Gianulias and Jeanne Maiden, and that's some high-priced help.
You bet. Feeling very comfortable on lane 25. Gives that one a little more room. The ball doesn't come back. In the bucket with the 7-pin.
Well, you leave a 5 count here, you lose all sorts of pins in count. She's got Larry Bird in the second right now, 33.
Looks good.
Well, she's shooting the spares like a champ, huh?
She sure is. We saw her chop the 6-10 and miss a bucket.
Yeah, but this week the ladies have thrown 2 balls most of the frames.
And we are in our 56-game format, so Denny, that makes for a lot of bowling.
Oh, boy, I want to tell you.
We had 3 rounds of 8 games in qualifying. They cut to the top 60 players, bowled 8 more in the morning, cut then to the top 24, and went into 24 games of match play.
More speed this time, and another flick of the 4-pin as it stands. She leads by 6.
Look at Patty Ann's game. A 4-step approach. She's very low to the line. Very tall lady. Look at that knee bend follow through, and she stays with her follow through.
You know, we mentioned those knee problems. She had 3 different knee surgeries, and it wasn't necessarily from bowling. It was from a car accident, but the bowling aggravated the knees. And so I asked her if it bothers her anymore, and she said, no, what I've done now is gotten involved in a number of stretching exercises, and that's all I do, about 40 minutes a day. And she said, I have no problems whatsoever.
Well, there's so much pressure going on to your left knee when you slide, Denny, especially for a woman that uses their legs for all their power, that the knees just have a tendency to wear out.
Right back at him, and she carries the wall shot in the 4th frame. So Patty Ann and Michelle Mullen really deadlocked in an interesting match here in the semifinal. Midway through the semifinal match, not a solid 5-pin left, but I guess if you have to leave anything to shoot at 9 spare, you want the 5 standing.
Trying to carry that Wally shot, as we say.
That was a big shot this week.
It was.
I mean, I think Weber could have averaged 225 here this week with that wall shot as many times as he used to carry it.
He used to love that shot.
Of course, we're speaking of Dick Weber, not
Pete.
That's right.
The only way Pete Weber carried the wall shot was the 5-pin went into the left wall.
Tries to scare up the strike, and she does. A little love tap of the 6-pin, so an X in the 5th.
Patty Ann looking for a double here, and another strike on lane 26.
Solid shot and a double, the first double of the match, and she takes a 17-pin lead.
Like I mentioned before, Patty Ann's line is a lot more direct towards the pocket. She's setting the ball short enough that it's picking up the oil in the front part of the lane, and it's just almost skidding right up to the pocket.
Well, she's the only player that's standing right and throwing the ball a little left of the top 5.
And she did it a lot this week when she started to make her move.
Right back at him. Almost. Leaves the 4-7. She's hit the pocket 6 consecutive shots, and that was the key this week, crossing the house, just hitting the pocket with every shot.
Coming in a little bit high, the head pin goes against the wall, sits right between the 4 and the 7. Also a lot of crowd fans back here behind Patty Ann. She's from Bloomington, Illinois. They work at Pheasant Lane. She runs the junior program there, and they have 550 junior bowlers, Denny.
She is really a delight. Just loves to bowl, loves to compete, and has a lot of fun doing so.
Michelle Mullen, also a bowling instructor, enjoys writing.
Oh, she got better roll on that shot. Oh, there's that 10-pin being kicked out, and there her grandparents are happy with that shot.
You bet, from nearby. Grandparents were able to come in, and that's very special. My grandparents were watching me when I won my first title. Nice kick by that 6-pin there. A big, big double for Michelle, as she's having a good time here tonight.
Opts for a re-rack on lane 25. This, for her, really tightens the match up because she takes the lead. With that shot in the 6th, and of course, strike here in the 7th gives her a 3-bagger.
And Jackie, she made it out to Canoga Park when Michelle made the show and finished 5th.
A lot easier to watch her bowl at home, though, right?
Oh, you bet.
All right, we'll be back with the conclusion of the semifinal game right after this. And in the 7th, a solid shot, but the 10-pin left for Patty Ann, who spared up.
An interesting note, Denny. Patty Ann did win her pro title from the number 2 position. She defeated Pam Buckner 187 to 168 for the title match in 1982.
Another 10-pin as she keeps rapping away at that pocket.
Well, she did make the adjustment off the 2 4-pins she left. She left 2 4-pins and a 4-7, so she had to make a little bit of an adjustment, move a little bit left, and the ball just not quite finishing hard enough now.
I asked her the key to making the telecast for her this week. She said, making my spares.
Well, it really was. With if you could catch the double, which it was very easy to do, is to catch a double here and there, then you just didn't want to have to make up those holes.
Very aggressive shot. Tries to trip the 4 and doesn't. So a 3-bagger is where it ends in the 8th. Really an interesting event as well. Players from 43 different states and 2 countries competing in this year's U.S. Open, which is run by the LPBT staff, also with the direction of the Bowling Proprietors Association of America. Next year's U.S. Open, I'm told, at what, Satellite Bowl in Detroit?
That's right.
Okay.
They do host a women's stop there. And I enjoy bowling at Satellite Bowl. Done well there. Looking forward to next year.
Operating right now at a 211 clip is Michelle Mullen.
Looking for the foundation strike here on her good lane. She gets it.
Well, she has really developed. You can just see her bowling better and better here under all the heat, and that's fun to watch.
Well, her first television appearance in Canoga Park, she did lose her first game, and it wasn't a very high game. So, you know, she's just in all her glory right now.
Going to have to hurry, and not the time that you want to miss the head pin. Lose count in the process.
Denny, Patty Ann's eyes dropped on that shot. Now, normally they stay locked in on a spot. They drop down to very short of the lane. Now, she does set the ball shorter. In order to do so, you can look shorter, but her eyes came off her target, and I think this is why she went right with that shot.
Got to spare up right now, and she does so beautifully in the ninth. So she gives herself a chance. If she strikes out, she could shoot 211.
She lost count on that, which was a very important shot for her. If she strikes out, Michelle only spares and then strikes to tie.
Robin Romeo waiting in the wings, the top seed. Well, she's waited for a break the entire game, and she gets it in the 10th.
Finally tripping out the 4 pin there, and the 7 pin looked like it was going to stand, and you'll see here the head pin does trip out the 4. The little head there knocks the 7 and says timber.
That first strike really helps tremendously, though, because it changes the complexion of the 10th frame for Michelle Mullen. She doubles. She really puts the heat on her. A light hit. Oh, what a time for that to happen, the 5-7.
The ball just deflecting Denny now. 5 pin did not go out. The ball's supposed to take it out. Does not go out. Not a good time.
Well, if anybody can make it, she can. She's one of the most accurate players anywhere in the country. She's going to give it a run. Oh, my. Well, a game of 200. So now Michelle Mullen knows what she has to shoot in order to move on to the title game.
Michelle needs a mark.
She didn't waste any time. Crashes through the nose and got the break of the tournament right there.
Oh, you bet. That was the break of the tournament. She didn't waste any time. She got up there, and I thought it was going to be high, and it was. She made sure she didn't send it too far right. Actually pulled a little high right through the heart of the pin. They just split in half.
Sometimes it's fate, and right now she continues to break up everything, and it doesn't make any difference. She advances to the championship game, and, well, sometimes it's just meant to be for Patty Ann. A disappointing third, but a nice $10,000 check. that's enough, and she breathes a sigh of relief. It's 219 to 200, and was it a strike? Of course it was. For Michelle Mullen, she'll shoe it up against Robin Romeo. She wins and moves on to the semifinal, or wins the semifinal rather, and moves into the championship game against our top seed, Robin Romeo. And if you've enjoyed the action this evening, next week, the WIBC Queens Tournament in Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota. Certainly one of my favorite towns, almost like the Quad Cities in the Midwest. 10 p.m. Eastern Time next Wednesday evening, live and direct only on ESPN. And for those cycling fans out there, and I know you, as you see Robin Romeo on the right, and Michelle Mullen, who's been a survivor, she wins 3 games thus far, and she finds herself in the biggest game of her life.
You bet. She's already surpassed her career earnings, which were $14,555 up until this point. She is now guaranteed at least $20,000 for second place.
And she comes out swinging in the championship game.
Now, Robin really has the disadvantage, Denny. She's been sitting off in the wings for the past hour, and the lanes have changed. She did get 6 balls. She needs to come out very aggressive. As we've seen her do in the past, we've also seen her come out and not be so aggressive, and those were the tournaments she lost.
Oh, my goodness. Comes out and just marks the X like a professional.
And this was a very aggressive shot. Robin, a very compact game, a 5-step approach, not much of a push away, pushes the ball very low. Very good knee bend, great extension. Doesn't go too far right with the ball, really doesn't go too far left, but she was right at the track this week, and she likes to play in the track area.
Trying to double up and put the heat right back the other way through the nose and leaves the 6-pin. Already won 3 times this year, won last week in Hyattsville. Number 1 in money, number 2 in average, number 1 in competitive points.
Really having the year of her life and her career. The one thing she's never done is won a major title, and this would be the title for her to win.
A little thumpity-dump on the thumb hole, but she throws a backup shot at the spares most times and is an outstanding spare player. Overturned that one and got away with one.
We saw her get away with one in the 10th frame last game against Patty Ann.
My good friend Lyle Zykes, a former cohort for the PBA in the old press room together, he's sitting with us and charting pocket hits in this championship round. Michelle Mullen, through the first 3 games, had hit the pocket only 20 of 33 shots, and yet she won the first 3 matches.
Well, she only had 9 strikes on lane 25 and 3 strikes on lane 26. So there aren't a lot of strikes out there tonight.
When you talk about the old adage, you have to hit the pocket to strike and win. Well, Patty Ann hit the pocket 10 of 11 shots, and she exited 1 game early.
It's not how you do it, it's how they go down.
She's made a living on the left-hand lane thus far, and now it's a 2-4-5 in the 3rd.
I think you'll start to feel the pressure building here in this championship game. The best finish Robin has had in the U.S. Open is 2nd. The best career finish Michelle Mullen has had is 6th, and has never won a title. So a spare up in the 3rd, Robin Romeo. Shoot now in the 3rd frame. Robin struck last time on lane 26, came out with a great opening shot. Originally from Brooklyn, New York, now living out in Van Nuys, California. Started bowling at the young age of 6.
Stood up a little quickly on that one. Oh, is it going to fall? The 4-pin leaves and the 7-pin stands. And I don't know about you, I'd like to take this pair of lanes with me everywhere because you can throw it through the nose and you don't get a split.
Actually, I'd like to take the pins with me in that case. It looks like the pins are the ones that are doing all the work here.
Boy, for a while there, 4 of them are standing, and when it's
That's
all
right.
said and done, just the 7-pin remained. Great action. Takes advantage of the break and spares up, and I just have a sneaking suspicion this one's going right to the 10th frame.
I think so, as the last 3 matches have. We've had a very exciting show this evening.
Well, of course, the good folks at Seagram's have made this such a marvelous tournament. $40,000 on top. It's the 3rd year they have sponsored the event, and let's hope they sponsor for many, many more years. Better shot.
Ooh, not quite getting the finish there. An excellent shot on lane 25. Looked good, and the ball just didn't break hard enough. 6-pin just sat in the channel. Robin contemplating on her next move. She's a 3-time WIBC All-American and 1987 Bowler's Journal All-American. And our good friend Jim Drussel is sitting in the audience this evening.
Along with one of the old greats in the bowling industry, writing-wise, Jim Fitzgerald. Spare up there in the 4th frame. All the dignitaries turning out here for the Women's U.S. Open. This one's hooking early and through the nose, and oh, no, not another strike through the nose.
Well, how many times have we seen it before, Denny? When the breaks are going your way, they just keep going your way. Last week, Robin felt she shouldn't have even won that tournament when she came off the lane, but things just went her way as the whole year has been going. But this lady here, Michelle Mullen, is getting the breaks tonight.
Man, that's as square on the headpin as you can possibly get. I know one thing. I think I'm going to have her buy me an Illinois lottery ticket.
That's a good idea.
Sure.
Maybe she'll buy me one, too.
On the toes, and Michelle is going, now, wait a minute. Am I dreaming? Pinch me, please. Boy, this is what every player wants, an opportunity to win the U.S. Open as she re-racks on lane 25.
Tonight's average, 197. Almost keeping up with that 208 television pair average and looking for the double. Ooh, sends it wide. The ball looked like it started to come back, and then it just went sliding away.
2-4-5 on consecutive shots on lane 25. So that lane obviously tightening up as the lane conditioner continues to move closer to the head pin.
And that was her lane that she threw the 9 strikes on in the previous 3 games.
Come on, Michelle, is the call from the crowd, and she spares one more time. I asked Robin Romeo what she did today on her day off. Well, did the laundry and had the van washed, and I changed the oil, and it was just a normal day for Robin Romeo.
Packed up and ready to go on to the WIBC tournament.
Yeah.
Our mom and dad, Joan and Ray, and nephew David are at home, wishing they could be here. Tried to get flights in, but weren't able to make it. Looking for the wall shot there. She leaves a 7-pin. And we have a tied-up match.
Best previous finish in the U.S. Open for that young lady, 2nd back in 1982 when the tournament was held in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
And it was non-televised at that time. Shinobu Saito from Japan, who will be in the Queen's Tournament next week, won that event.
You're right, though. I think you hit the nail right on the head, Leila, when you said, you know, Robin has been very successful out here. 10 titles, and she's having a tremendous year this year, but she's never won a major championship. And, boy, she just does not want to let this one get away from her.
She's finished 2nd in Samstown National Championships twice. And those were 2 major events that she would have liked to have won.
Only 3 strikes through the first 10 frames in the title match. Oh, that's wide of the mark.
She left a weak 10 last time on lane 25. Now Robin going a little more direct. See exactly what happened here. Looks like she just got out of that out-of-bounds area, as we saw Nikki do on the 1 shot, right over the 2nd arrow, and the ball just went to the right. And we saw this happen a lot this week.
Hit that one about as hard as she could and takes the 8-pin out as she breathes a sigh of relief.
Wanting to make sure she got that ball up to the head pin. Both players are opting to use a shinier surface ball. A little less hook. Trying to go a little more direct up that track area. The track area between the second and third arrow, and she hit right over the third arrow, and she didn't break up the 310 as we've seen her do so many times tonight.
Well, it's been ages since she left to split in the 310. You're right. But as tight as the lanes are, this is probably not as difficult as it would normally be.
She didn't get the ball far enough to the right here, and the ball went to the left, and once again, she just didn't break it up, as we've seen her do.
Trying to fit it inside and slides past the 3. So the first opening in the championship game in the 6th frame for Michelle Mullen.
A lot of fans in the background are yelling, "Shake it off, Michelle," the hometown favorite.
Robin Romeo now up by 10 pins.
Oh, and that was a nice shot there by Michelle.
Well, I'll tell you what I like. The fact that got right up and do what she wanted to do with the shot and made an aggressive shot and hit the pocket rather than standing around wondering what you're going to try and accomplish.
She really is putting on a good show here tonight, Danny. Making the shots really when she's needed them. Oh, as I say that, I thought I might have jinxed her there. Never a doubt, we say.
So a 10-pin lead now for Robin Romeo as she steps up in the 7th frame. Don't forget, immediately following the Seagram's Coolers U.S. Open, Sports Center, Bob Lee and Dan Patrick with all the latest scores in the NBA playoffs and Major League Baseball. Better shot there.
Right around the 11-12 board, very direct towards the pocket.
Thing of beauty last night in the position round game. She shot a big 250 game to nail down the top spot.
As you can see here, right the line her ball takes. Just around the 11-12 board and the ball stays. She gets the wall shot.
So, a big double in the 7th and the 8th, and she's just kind of grabbed this one by the throat.
A super shot there, very aggressive. She went wide last time on lane 25. This time she made sure she got it up to the head pin, and she did it with a lot of speed.
And you can see the pressure now on Michelle Mullen, who won 3 games via the spare, basically, and now she finds herself 22 pins down, and she's got to throw some strikes.
The pressure building, and lane 26 being the lane that she keeps going high, Denny. She had to go right with it. She did, and the results were missing the head pin here.
Hangs in with the spare. Could shoot 202 if she would strike out.
Now, Robin did opt that Michelle finishes on lane 26. It's the lane she has not been hitting. Lane 25, lane she has struck on quite a bit. And looking for that foundation strike right here.
By the head pin one more time, and with each frame without a strike, Robin Romeo moving a step closer to her first major championship.
And with a lot of tournaments left to go, if she wins here tonight, she could bypass Lisa's record from last year.
Yeah, Lisa Wagner becoming the first woman ever to win over $100,000 in a season, but for Robin Romeo, she would go to $73,950, and we're not even done with this segment yet.
With 16 events left in 1989.
Well, if they didn't have 40,000 on top in this one, it'd be a hard road to get to 100,000. Keep in mind, Lisa Wagner won this event last year in Winston-Salem. Vaulted her to the greatest year a woman's ever had bowling.
to keep the pressure on right there, getting a little bit right again. Catching that out-of-bounds area.
Second time she has left the 1-2-8, but the last version was on lane 25.
Not really hurting her too much. She can convert this spare. As she leads by 22 pins.
She waited for a moment, it backed up. Well, the key situation now, the best Michelle Mullen could do would be 189, and so that kind of sets the table for Robin Romeo.
Robin Romeo just needing count on this ball.
She got ahead of herself a little bit and leaves a 1-2-4. So the count hurts her there.
Yes, it did. She needed count on that ball.
A spare, and she locks up the U.S. Open Championship.
A miss, and Michelle Mullen can still strike out and win. Probably her toughest spare conversion of her career, and oh my gosh.
She chops it off, and all of the sudden it turns completely in the favor of Michelle Mullen with 2 strikes and 9. She could win the championship. 187 for Robin Romeo, who will live a long time and remember that shot if Michelle Mullen doubles up here in the 10th.
Well, we saw things go her way last week in Hyattsville, Maryland. This is not Michelle's good lane, but we saw her strike when she needed it last time.
Plenty of roll. Is it going to get to the head pin? No. And Robin Romeo wins the Seagram's Coolers U.S. Open, $40,000, and it's title number 4 here in 1989, and it's the year of Romeo on the LPBT Tour. Vince Partridge, Vice President of Seagram's, of course, with a $40,000 check. John Hillman, the BPAA President, with a beautiful silver medallion. And, of course, the jacket from Chief Wapinski. So long, everyone, from Addison, Illinois.